The Consequence of Disrespecting the Buddha's Relics, a story from the Dhammapada commentary. After the Blessed Buddha attained parinibbana, the Buddhist devotees, led by the Malla kings, performed the great funeral ceremonies for the Buddha's sacred body. When the ceremonies were completed, many kings from across Jambudapa gathered with their armies, intending to fight for possession of the Buddha's relics. At that time, the Brahmandona mediated and peacefully divided the sacred relics among the kings. Each king returned to his own kingdom with the portion he received. King Ajatasattu, whose faith and devotion were exceptionally deep, arranged a magnificent procession for the relics from Kusinara all the way to Rajagaha. He placed the Buddha's relics on a royal chariot adorned with 7 kinds of precious jewels. For every 1 yojana of travel, he stopped and held ceremonies for 7 days and 7 nights. Continuing this way, the procession finally arrived in Rajagaha after 7 years, 7 months and 7 days. The people of Rajagaha were filled with joy, faith, and devotion, but among them were more than 80,000 wrong-viewed people who were displeased. They complained endlessly, saying, "Why hold such long ceremonies? No one has time to work. And what benefit is there in worshipping burnt bones?" These misguided people developed anger toward the relics and toward the king himself. Among those 80,000 wrong-viewed people was a wealthy householder. He held the same wrong views as the rest, but his wife, daughter, and sons-in-law possessed right understanding and great devotion. They joined every ceremony and offered respect to the Buddha's relics despite the husband's scolding and criticisms. Eventually, according to their karma, they all passed away. The wrong-viewed husband was reborn as a Pita, hungry ghost, together with the 80,000 other wrong-viewed beings in the region between the Vulture Peak Mountains. But his wife, daughter, and their children were all reborn as devas in heavenly realms. One day, Mahakasapathera arose from meditative cessation and saw with his insight that many beings had died and fallen into hell and the Peta realm. So he summoned them by his spiritual power to stand before the stupa where the Buddha's relics were enshrined. Through his miraculous ability, he made it possible for hell beings, Pitas, humans, and devas to see one another. The Pita husband looked up into the sky and saw his wife, daughter, and their children reborn as radiant devas, enjoying heavenly splendor. Burning with regret over his own fate, he went near Mahakasapa and pleaded that if he could ever escape from the Peta world and be reborn as a human again, he would honor and venerate the Buddha's relics at all times. After a moment, Mahakasapa ended his display of supernatural power, and everything returned to normal. The Buddhist devotees who had witnessed this extraordinary event approached the elder to ask about the past karma of those hell beings and Pitas they had seen. Mahakasapa then narrated the story of the more than 80,000 Pitas, including the householder who appeared among them, explaining their past unwholesome actions. And thus, the more than 80,000 Pitas, with the householder as their leader, continue to suffer even to this very day, all because they disrespected the sacred relics of the Buddha. Moral teaching summary. In the time after the Buddha's passing, many people honored his sacred relics with deep devotion, but more than 80,000 people mocked, complained, and looked down on the relics, believing there was no value in reverence or gratitude. Because of their disrespect, they were reborn as suffering spirits, while those who honored the Buddha with sincerity were reborn in heavenly realms. Through the insight of Mahakasapathera, these beings saw the results of their own actions. The devoted were lifted to higher happiness, while the disrespectful remained trapped in misery. Realizing his mistake, one Pita begged for another chance at human life, so he could honor the Buddha with true faith. The teaching. Disrespect comes from ignorance, and ignorance leads to suffering. Reverence, gratitude, and right understanding bring peace and higher blessings. This story reminds us that what we honor shapes our destiny. Attitude is karma. Looking down on goodness harms only ourselves. Sincere respect and right intention elevate the heart. Regret cannot erase past actions, but wisdom can prevent future suffering.